There was also a question about, are people even calling for this? And I'm kind of surprised by that. There are a number of parents, of mothers, there are a number of children who are doing this. I have kids. My kids are growing up in an environment of having to do active shooter drills. We've heard from people who are impacted by gun violence, whether it's a family member, a friend, a neighbor, survivors, and those who've lost loved ones are calling for this. And something that was said in one of the committee hearings by an HCMC doctor, which has stuck with me throughout as we've heard this bill a number of times, was just because we can't do everything doesn't mean we shouldn't do something. And so for all of those reasons, I am strongly in support of this bill. So there was some questions that were raised regarding the kinds of information that law enforcement would rely on when seeking to do the petition here. And I was looking at the language of the bill, line 232.16 to about 232, onto page 233, and it really talks about the petitioner must prove by a preponderance of the evidence, this is to the court now, that the respondent poses a significant danger of bodily harm to self or others, and then it lists a number of factors that would have to be considered by the court in making that determination, such as a history of threats, a history or threatened use of physical force, et cetera. And so my question to you is, with law enforcement in trying to decide whether or not to even petition in the first place, would you also be considering the same factors that the court would be considering when whether or not to issue a petition?
Chief Potts?
Mr. Chair, Representative Moller, short answer is yes.
Great, thank you.
Senator Moller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then there was some comments made about situation of women and if an extreme risk protective order is issued against a spouse, would a woman left at the house be more at risk? And I would just say that right now women are at risk. In an average year, there are 600 women in the United States who are shot to death by an intimate partner. And a gun in a domestic violence situation does make it 5 times more likely that a woman will be killed, and that statistic's even worse for women of color. And I just wanted to bring us back to a survivor's story that was shared with me, because I think both this bill and the previous bill we discussed really get at the heart of what we're trying to do with this legislation here. And this was a woman who was murdered. Her name was Shelley Joseph Cordell. She was caring for elderly clients, and one of the adult children of one of her clients had a history of threatening behavior, which she then began to direct at Shelley. And Shelley's niece tells me that had Minnesota had an extreme risk protective order law, she knows Shelley would have utilized it because Shelley was scared. There were threatening letters that started coming to Shelley from this woman, and then dead cats began showing up on her doorstep. And every time Shelley called the police, they told her there was nothing they could do until the woman actually hurt Shelley. And that's what happened. This woman went to a gun show, bought a gun through a private sale with no background check, and then ultimately shot Shelley and her attorney at the Hennepin County Government Center, where I work now, and we have a number of security measures in place as a result of that. But I think that story really highlights the kind of situation that we're trying to prevent here. And again, as I said with House File 8, just because we can't do everything doesn't mean that we can't do something. Thank you, Mr. Chair.